Hey, everyone. Welcome to, I think, our fourth weekly update here for PegNet. Katie Z, founder and CEO of Spaceway Media, blockchain PR company. We've got David Johnston, David Chapman, Steven. You guys want to say hello?
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Hey, I tend to stay pretty quiet, but I'm here.
Steven's the rock star that does all the real coding. I mean, honestly, it should be his show. That's what I think.
I'm fine with you guys being the face.
Oh, man.
So lots of good stuff coming up. I know a number of us were rushing to get things out before this weekly update, just so we had some links to share and some good news. We've got a couple of new pairs, including USD pairs listed now. So we have some on and off ramp there. David Johnson, you want to kick things off?
Sure. It sounds like we're up to, I think, 6 listed pairs now. So we've got peg to Bitcoin, peg to ETH. Yesterday I saw that Vitex listed USDT to Bitcoin, ETH, Vite, and USDT. And so pegged USD, which is a PegNet asset, has now got 4 different pairs. Actually, and then today we picked up 2 more from VineX, VINEX. VineX is listed pegged to, I believe, Bitcoin and USDT. So yeah, we're now up to 8 pegged asset pairs. So that's awesome that we've got all these exchanges jumping in and listing assets. The big thing from this week for me was all the factoids. So some mystery person showed up and converted 80,000 factoids in a day. And then I think another 30,000 factoids the day after. I don't know if there's the same person. And then there was another 40,000 factoids converted yesterday. So it's just been like on fire. I think the total, if you look at Satoshi, is now 277,000 factoids have been converted into pegged assets, which pushed just over $1 million in pegged assets for the whole network, which is an awesome milestone and a cool vote of confidence that people are, putting assets into the system and trying it out. So it's been a fun week.
Yeah, I was just looking about a half hour ago. I don't know what the latest refresh is, but we were just shy of $2 million daily volume so far, which is, I was having some side conversations about just wanting to keep this momentum going and how useful it's been for getting the attention of the different exchanges, and the activity is really important too for the security of the network, and it's great to see.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. David, you're Chapman, you're a little bit quiet this morning now. You want to share a little bit about from PegNet Market Cap and its brand new Twitter, what you got going on over on that side of things?
Did decide to create a Twitter account for PegNetMarketCap.com. It's twitter.com/PegNetMarketCap. Love people to follow us. We'll be tweeting out any new pairs that we add and new functionality. The newest VineX pairs have been added to the exchange column on PegNet Market Cap. So we're keeping up with things so far. We hope to be overwhelmed soon, though, with new exchange listings.
Awesome. A technical question, Chapman. I'm curious if you can give people a little color on how you guys like average prices or how you weight them. Curious now that there's a bunch of different pairs, how you come to the price that everybody sees on PegNet Market Cap.
Sure. We weight them by volume. So if, for example, there's an ETH pair and a Bitcoin pair, and the ETH pair only has 1/10 of the volume, we're not going to weigh those evenly. We'll take into account exactly how much volume it is and do a simple weighted average so that it comes out to be a more appropriate pricing.
Got it. Cool. Good to know. Just curious.
Where do you see things going with PegNet Market Cap as we're listing more listing on more and more exchanges, because we have the exchange volume too in a separate column there. Is that going to grow wide, or is it all going to dump into that one column?
It'll all dump into that single column. If you click on the link for the exchange column, it'll take you to a page that shows all the different exchanges and the pairs that are aggregated for that specific asset. So we want to keep it really simple on the front page, but then delve deeper into exactly where we're getting that data from as you click deeper into the site.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like simplicity. Makes things easy. Yeah, for anyone who's watching this, I'll put the links in the video when we share that on our YouTube for the different exchanges and how you guys can navigate and check things out. Hopefully find some good arbitrage opportunities and things like that. Another big announcement that we had, and we kind of touched on it just briefly though, but I think it's significant, is we crossed that $1 million threshold, and it seems like in a matter of 2 days, we're almost double that now. Or no, that's for daily volume. Sorry, not to confuse everyone. But yeah, we crossed that $1 million threshold for the total assets in the network. So that's a big milestone for us. I think we need to have a party soon.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that or when we reach 1 billion hash per second, right? That would be pretty cool, because the network's grown so much. It seems like it's stabilized around 400 or 500 million hash per second, which is really cool to see. You know, and at some point the market reaches a balance where that's what miners can afford to put onto the network. So it'll be interesting to see the interplay as the peg price becomes free floating in the future. If there's a change in the peg market price, sort of how that affects the mining hash power. But I'd love to see us hit 1 billion in the coming weeks. It'd be really, really cool. Kind of a fun, big round number. There we got to do a party for sure.
So you say, I saw on factoshi.io/PegNet, you can see the hash power live. It did peak a couple of times right around 750 million hash per second. How many computers do you suppose that is, just to give us a reference point?
I did a little calculation in my article about hash rate and why it's important, and it depends on how much hash you presume per computer. But let's take like an average off-the-shelf, you know, commodity computer. Maybe you get 20,000 hash off, you know, a little laptop that's a couple years old. So if we use that as a basis, and you divide that by, say, the 500 million hash, we're at around 29,000 computers. So maybe there are more powerful computers and there's only, you know, half as many. You'd still have, let's say, 14 or 15,000 powerful computers on the network, which is pretty substantial. You know, I've been mining since the very beginning, and I know how much work it was to put up a couple hundred mining computers. I mean, to imagine like 15 or 30,000, it's a whole nother level. So, you know, a lot of people have shown up. I see our Asian social channels are really active. So maybe it's Asian miners. There's a lot of people showing up in Discord from Europe. So it's really people all over the world. It's funny. It's like I knew a lot of the miners at the beginning. Now I have like no idea who most of the miners in the system are. But that's the cool thing, is it's bringing in new people to the community.
I'd like to point out too that you can actually use the Orax pool is reporting their number of machines that are mining and the number of users, unique users that are mining, and they're contributing about 45 million hashes per second to the hash pool. So, you know, they're like 1/10 of the network, and they have currently 570 miners and 90 users. So,
I think those numbers might be outdated, Stephen. I think they cracked 100 million hash.
So they did, but it came back down.
Okay.
It looked like whoever was contributing a big portion must have pulled some of the miners out. Now they're currently at 45.
Got it. Cool.
Hey, another idea. I just had a thought. This is Andrew. Just jumping in to listen. You know, the hardware information is available to the operating system, so maybe the mining protocol, particularly the ones used by mining pools, could also include the hardware info, so you could actually get better estimates at the number of individual CPUs and things like that over time.
That's a cool suggestion. Yeah, no, there's probably a lot of ways we could do better analytics. And speaking about mining pools, that was one of the big news items from this morning. We now have our first open source PegNet mining pool, Prosper Pool. I know that they're setting up the website right now, but everybody's super active on Discord. I'll suggest to the team, but I think they're putting up a link to the Discord on prosperpool.io/chat. So if you put in prosperpool.io/chat, it should redirect you by the time this video gets uploaded to the Discord for the folks at Prosper Pool. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I can, for myself, probably those watching this are a little bit more developer savvy than I am. But, you know, I was in there this morning and just asking about how can I get up, and I knew I needed a little paint by numbers kind of hand holding going on. And it's really that simple. I really appreciate seeing how things have progressed in this industry to make things easier and easier incrementally for more participation. And I think having the LXR hash that Paul had put in place here with PegNet, I think is really significant for welcoming more people into PegNet. And I think we're just scratching the surface right now. We're still in the deep tech kind of community, and I think that's going to start branching out, but we'll see. If I have anything to do with it anyway.
Awesome. All right, cool. Anything else we want to cover from the news? It's been a pretty active week.
I would like to put out too that I'm really excited about that open source mining pool, because I really think that distributing hash power to more entities is a good idea. And as we saw, ORX Pool's popularity shows there's people out there who want to run small mining operations. And the open source pool is just a great way to get some more people out there involved. I really hope to see some more developers, you know, start contributing too, and see if we can get maybe a second instance going.
Yeah, that'd be awesome to see. I'd love to see as many pools as there are, you know, different groups and people, audiences that they can serve. You know, I'm sure we'll see specialization. So it's good that we've moved past one. We've got a couple of mining pools now, and hopefully they're going to see a lot of collaboration. You know, the reason that we open sourced the Prosper pool is we want the other pools to be able to use the tech that was built in the back end. Stephen, do you want to speak at all to some of the coding stuff that's going on, either on the pool front or just in general with PegNet, some of the improvements that are being made?
Yeah, sure. Well, one of the great things about the pool being open source is I'd really like to adopt a lot of that code base for the reference miner. The reference miner was made, you know, I guess over a month ago now. It was made pretty much in the early days, so we know a lot more about PegNet. A lot of the, you know, kind of quirks of it and how it works. So the pool code is much more stable. And I think that we could, over time, adopt that code base to be available to people running their own solo operations, not just pool operations. And then obviously the pool would have more funding for development than an open source reference miner, which is probably being phased out in favor of pools anyway. So I think this is a good way forward to sustain the development. Aside from that, PegNet in general, I think there's two big things coming out in the near future. One of them is the potentially moving the peg to a floating price. So right now the peg price is derived from the market cap of all the P assets. But as the peg token gets listed on exchanges, it's going to have an exchange price. And once we have enough volume and enough support and enough data sources that we have a good solid, you know, foundation for miners to grab this floating price from, we'll switch that to a floating price, and then the peg price will become a market price rather than this equation that we currently have. So I'm really excited to see that coming forward. That's underway. The next thing is underway too is the work to supporting an Ethereum gateway, which I know we've talked about plenty. One of the big obstacles to the Ethereum gateway is making sure the user experience is clean, where if you go through the gateway, you know coming out the other side where those funds are going to be. I mean, obviously you want those funds to be back in your Ethereum wallet. So currently we're developing a new address type supported by the PegNet that will allow you to use your Ethereum private keys on the PegNet network to control your P assets. That way, if you go through the gateway, you'll use the same seed, same private keys. And it should be hopefully as seamless of an experience as we can make it. So I'm really excited. You know, a lot of things are coming out right now.
Yeah, no, I think those are both really big deals. Thanks for bringing those up, Stephen. No, I think both improvements to the core software as this matures are going to make things more and more robust. And yeah, no, I think it's great to have a deeper Ethereum integration. And I think having support for Ethereum address types and signature types is pretty critical. Sort of deepening our integration with that community, because there's so much DeFi, wallet infrastructure, exchanges. A lot of the DEXs are all built on Ethereum. So no, I think that's going to be awesome to see in the coming weeks.
Yeah, for sure. I also agree, David, with your background with Ethereum, and you were early in there on that one, and so was Paul and a couple other community members. What has been the response so far from some of your oldest peers there, and the new ones, I guess, too?
A lot of them say it sort of reminds them of those early days, you know, like the mining, everybody jumping into the community, sort of the energy. So I think there's a lot of parallels there because there was a pent-up demand in those days to do scripting on a blockchain, and Vitalik really sort of captured that energy, and him and Gavin and the other developers and Charles and all the early founders really you know, were able to tune into all those developers who wanted to see that. And I think there's a similar pent-up energy today for real-world assets on the blockchain, and stablecoins are just the particular asset that's really taken off the last 6-12 months. As we talked about before, there's more stablecoin volume now than Bitcoin on a daily basis, which is incredible. But it's sort of, this is the industry going mainstream, right? And people putting real world assets on, it's natural that they would want to put, you know, fiat currencies, gold, silver, all these things onto the blockchain, because they get faster transfer, they can control the asset themselves, you know, they don't have to trust some third party, there aren't fees, et cetera, right? So Ethereum has been able to address the part of the market where, like, you want to create a new token, something that's never existed before. But it's been harder without immutable oracles to pull in those real world assets. And so I think what PegNet is well, part of why it's really taking off is because Factom has this deep expertise in immutable oracles, it's been able to do something nobody else has done, which is bring in these real world assets with a level of confidence in the data, because it's being secured not only into Factom, but into Bitcoin and into Ethereum. So it's like triple verified, triple secured by these blockchains. But in addition to that, you have the mining and that whole approach to sort of simplify the way that you report this information and give somebody a reward at the same time. It feels like we've come up. It's a friend was saying to me earlier that PegNet is financial alchemy. And I think that's what we've achieved. Like it's digital gold, right? So it's like the definition of financial alchemy. So it's pretty cool to see that, and like people's reaction and energy around that. It's like, oh wow, I haven't seen anybody do that before or take that approach. Like I haven't heard of any other project using proof of work around oracles the way that we're leveraging it. So I think that's part of why we're getting such a reaction.
So this is a question for anyone who wants to chime in on that. You know, Bitcoin took a long time to kind of break and cross that chasm, or to where we knew that there's some level of stickability, right? And Ethereum, each project, each startup has that chasm, and they can come in different phases too, in different chasms that they have to cross. Where do you think that is for PegNet, until we can kind of look a little bit over our shoulder and say, okay, so we've got some stickability here for moving forward. What I don't know if I'm wording myself right. Sorry. I can do better.
Since it's all assets, I would say, just right off the top of my head, it's more exchanges, premier exchanges, and then ultimately getting some other listings outside of current crypto exchanges on a more traditional finance integration into, I don't know, your Fidelities, NASDAQ, Schwabs, and things like that, because these are assets that are traded.
And that would for sure signal some stickability, I think. Are
Yeah.
there other factors that you're looking at that you could say, okay, we've really got something that's going to stick?
Look, liquidity and usage and how much those assets are traded. That's going to be the stickability.
Yep.
In my opinion.
No, I couldn't agree with Andrew more. That is the next big hurdle. Like, okay, we've got the attention of miners. I feel pretty good about the number of computers that are securing the network right now. Like, and that's going to keep growing in proportion to the usage. But Andrew's hit the nail on the head. We gotta connect in with the trading community. We need to get it on a lot of exchanges. There has to be real in these assets, because the part of the PegNet that we haven't fully reached yet is all the arbitrage stuff, right? People are only going to want to use these assets if there's a small spread between the price on PegNet and the price on the exchange. And for that to work in PegNet, you need people doing that arbitrage on a regular basis. So we really need to focus, I think, in the coming weeks and months on recruiting more and more traders with deep experience in writing the scripts and know these exchanges, can run different strategies, or all, really experimenting with the system and finding ways where they make money trading better on PegNet than they could on some other system, right? So I think that's absolutely the next big milestone, is we can look back and there are tens of millions of dollars of real world volume on DEXs and centralized exchanges, and there are very close spreads with a lot of these assets. Then we'll be able to say, like we can today, all right, we're getting there where like it's realized what we hoped it would with the design of the system, right? And yeah, that's the next big thing.
So, I mean, I agree. And I have some insight just from being so close with the project by this point to understand the benefits of trading on the PegNet network. Why don't you make that case right now on this video? Use it, understand, to help communicate to the traders what the differences are and why this should appeal to some of what they do.
So, sure. Any arbitrager should love PegNet. It's like giving them an OTC next to every other exchange in the world, where if they take pegged assets, let's say pegged gold, off of an exchange, they can immediately convert it without a penalty or a fee or to pay somebody else. And they don't have any slippage. They don't have any limits. They can convert $1 million or $10 million of value from one peg asset to another inside of the PegNet within 10, 20 minutes, right? So extremely fast. They don't have to wait for bank deposits. They don't have to wait for transfers from an OTC, which can take like 24 hours, depending if there's a wire involved, right? So this is giving them a level of liquidity that they've never had before, right? And so what they should be able to do is look at the markets where pegged assets are being traded and quickly move in and out of those to close those spreads, right? So if gold is very popular and it's trading at 1% above the peg price, then they should be creating more pegged gold, depositing on the exchange, getting that higher price from the people on the exchange, and using those returns to buy more pegged assets or to take that crypto as their gains. So there's a real incentive for traders to fill up these order books based on how much people are demanding different assets. And it goes both ways, right? If silver is unpopular and it's trading for 99 cents a dollar, take it off the exchange and get full price for it on the PegNet and trade into something else, right? So there's a natural balance between how much should be deposited or how much should be withdrawn. And we need traders to play that role, and they can get paid really well by the protocol to do this. They don't need anybody's permission. There's nothing to sign up. they can download a PegNet wallet today and really start doing this. So I'd love to see that kind of trading evolve, especially as we see more and more pairs get listed. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for traders to make money doing that arbitrage.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you did a write-up, and we can also link that in there for anyone interested in, you said it was called Ready Trader One, which I like the title. And it just showed, I think it was around 100 or so trades in the day. And normally you'd have these exorbitant fees to make each of those trades.
Sure.
But in the PegNet, this person, guy, gal, whomever, did all of those trades for 11 cents. Like that was their total cost. So even if they only profited 30 cents gross for the day on all of those trades, they didn't lose any money.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
no, I added up that
so much
even
less.
if you had super, super low fees at like 0.1%, you would
Right.
have paid $50 or $100 in trades for the day, and all of a sudden you're not losing that money, right? And that might not be a lot of money to some people, but traders that trade really actively, you know, those fees add up, and those hundreds become thousands, and those thousands becomes tens of thousands over months and years. And so, you know, those fees are real and a real pain point. So yeah, no, that's pretty cool part of PegNet.
I was involved in some chats on Telegram and getting a whole lot of people just trying to poke holes through different projects that are new, and it's hard for people to really conceptualize decentralized. When they hear that a project is decentralized, automatically they default into thinking, well, no, it can't because this, and this, it's not truly decentralized. And you have all these different projects that are purporting that term to, or associating it to whatever it is that they're building, when there are certain pillars that are not standing up to make that truly decentralized in the way that we have Bitcoin decentralized. If that's going to be our model example, can someone more technically savvy explain how PegNet is truly decentralized? Because I think a lot of people in the community that are new to it are having trouble to agree with that, and it's taking a little bit of demonstration to them to get them to understand. And it's important too to what we're building here.
Look at not just mining, not just APIs, but development as well. I think a reasonable argument can be made that Bitcoin isn't that decentralized in some facets. You look at where the majority of the mining and is taking place, a lot of it's transpiring in China. And then you look at the number of pools that are required to have a 51% attack, and last I looked, it was something like 7 or something like that. When it comes to PegNet, you need mining to be decentralized, and I think that we've done a pretty darn good job of that. The Asian miners definitely have a pretty good chunk of hash power, but definitely well dispersed throughout the world. Development, which is really critical. You see so many different projects say, oh, we're decentralized, but then they have 1 or 2 developers or foundation that's in charge of development, which just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Whereas development for PegNet has been highly decentralized across a lot of parties. There isn't a foundation behind PegNet, unlike so many of these projects out there. And then you look at the oracles. We require at least 2 separate external market APIs for each pegged asset that's out there, because we want to make sure that there isn't a single point of failure when it comes to those data sets. And then the miners act as those oracles. So there's hundreds and hundreds of different entities out there validating and publishing this data to PegNet at this point. Whereas I've looked at some of the other stablecoin or synthetics, and the foundation, for example, is in charge of the oracles. And one in particular I'm thinking of, they actually had a failure of that oracle, and it really messed up their data for a while. Can PegNet become more decentralized? Absolutely, but for as early as we are in this project, it's actually quite impressive just how decentralized it is, in my opinion.
Yep. I wonder if, Andrew, you want to mention anything. You were there for a lot of the early days of Bitcoin, sort of how you see that path to maximizing decentralization for what we're doing with PegNet.
Yes, absolutely. So this is a tough one. The devil is in the definitions here. You really don't have across the board complete agreement on what it means to be decentralized fully. For example, just to point out, to speak regarding, some people claiming that Bitcoin's not decentralized enough because mining is. I'm not picking on any speakers here. Just going off of what's out there. That it's all Asia, and then others point out how that's not the case, and it doesn't matter, or there's plenty of decentralization. So I would say stick to, when you talk about this topic, how it's decentralized, the PegNet, try to stick to points that there is agreement on, the majority, what does it mean to be decentralized? Because if you start picking things and talk about things that there's no agreement on for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others, you're just going to keep fighting the same arguments back and forth. You're going to get bogged down in that. I would start only with things that are defined fairly easy, and there's lots of agreement on what decentralization is. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, and then as you get those other things, because someone today could, you make that mining claim, and someone can say, well, you have the one public mining pool or whatever, and it's controlling everything, so you're not decentralized, and you're going to have a hard time from that position right off the bat. So you don't want to put yourself into that position strategically.
Yeah, from my
to keep defense.
Sorry, Andrew. Go ahead.
Don't do it in a way that puts you on the defense immediately, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like maybe don't talk about mining pools, don't point that out as compared to Bitcoin specifically. If you start comparing mining to Bitcoin, you're going to lose that in a heartbeat. Bitcoin is the most decentralized in terms of mining out there, for example. So that's, so pick your battles.
Yeah, where I stand on decentralized definition, I suppose, would be having some core pillars, meaning you'd have to be public and open. You'd have to be censorship resistant. You'd have to be borderless. You would have to have, of course, no central authority, no reserve or anything like that. To me, that negates immediately. But any of those pillars, I think, can be compromised, or attacked. But until that actually happens, as long as those pillars are standing, then you have something that's decentralized. Can something that was once decentralized become centralized because of an attack? I think yes. But I'm certainly not an authority on this. I think everybody has their opinion on it. I know that I did get some questions that, again, for those who have gotten to know me now, I'm not as tech savvy as, say, David Johnson and Dave Jackson. But, one of the questions were, okay, well, PegNet has APIs. So off the bat, I'm putting that in the centralized bucket. That can't be. But what's important to understand is that all of those, we don't control any of those APIs. PegNet doesn't control them. None of them are owned by anyone at PegNet. They're all public APIs, and it's important for getting the Oracle price record, because that's the method that's set up here versus that collateral reserve issues. So what is...
Well, I mean, on that specifically, you could say, are you talking about the APIs that are in the public code base that you download and run to participate, or are you talking about APIs that others have built a business around, second layers that run on top of PegNet? So if you differentiate that, because that's true in Bitcoin, for example, you've got APIs built into the common Bitcoin node software. So does not do with decentralization. But if you're talking about APIs that Coinbase published to trade Bitcoin, well, that's a business built on top of Bitcoin. So yes, that part is centralized, but we're not talking about Coinbase, we're talking about the core software. So you can quickly differentiate that and stand your ground, and undo the confusion of whoever's commingling, which APIs they're talking about.
That's a good point.
Would have liked to have you at 4 a.m. when I was having these chats in the DeFi group. One of the other things is it can be, everyone's so opinionated in cryptocurrency, especially the ones that have been in it for quite some time. They can get very protective, I suppose, of the sanctity of the industry. And so for me, it's more of a softer approach. I'd much rather organically lead them there, help them understand, versus trying to shove an idea down their minds, if you will. But I think it's important that it's talked about, because these are questions that come up regularly and repeatedly, and it's such an important part to what PegNet is and why it exists and the methodology of it. But other than that, the only other thing that I would like to add to this and coming out with all of this, especially with the mining pools and especially with the increased activity and the burning of factoids, is just keeping it top of mind that there are meetups and chapters all around the world for PegNet that are popping up. And if you're watching this and you're interested to get involved or organize one, reach out on the Discord, and we'll all be really helpful to help you get what you need to get that up. And maybe you do one that's focused on, getting set up to be a miner, so you can start mining some pegs. But I just want to put that out there for those watching this far.
Yeah, that's great. No, I know the meetup in Amsterdam just happened, I think, the other night. And people have been holding them all over the world. So if you want to volunteer, by all means, let us know. We can get you a remote speaker or presentation materials, or just how to set up a wallet, how to set up a miner, all that kind of good stuff. So that's a great way to maybe wrap up here, is join the community. Love to have you. We need more traders. We need more miners. We need more experts of all sorts.
Because we're decentralized and we're built on a community of volunteers.
Yep, exactly. Cool.
All right, everyone. I'm going to close that out then. Have a great afternoon, rest of your week, and hope to see you in the Discord.
See you guys.
Good.
All right. Catch you next week. Bye.